Hey everyone, we're going to talk about the rise of totalitarian dictators today and what leads up to World War II beginning. Before we actually get into that specifically, I got two words that I just want to make sure you know. Our first word here is appeasement or appease. If you appease someone, you're giving someone something that they want in order to avoid conflict with them or future conflicts with them. Our other word is a totalitarian or totalitarianism. If you're a totalitarian, like the root of that word, you have total control over your country, over your nation. A totalitarian is also a dictator. A dictator generally has total control of their country. There's one person in charge, and they are that person. If your country practices totalitarianism, that means they have that leader, and that leader has total control. And here are some totalitarians that are going to be of some prominence during World War II. You have Tojo from Japan, Mussolini from Italy, and Hitler from Germany. So before we actually get into World War II, we have to realize that World War II is actually really kind of a continuation of World War One. The conflict of World War One wasn't completely resolved, which is why World War II happens. So our main participants of World War One were Britain, France, U.S., Serbia to some extent, and Russia. Those were the allies, even though Russia eventually drops out. The Central Powers' main two sides were Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Ottoman Empire would be in there anyway. So as we likely know, the Central Powers are going to lose. Germany is the one who is ultimately punished for the war, since they were the major antagonist during it. And this is the way that they were punished. Their army was severely reduced in size. They lost lots of their territory. It was broken up and taken away from them. And they had to pay $30 billion for the war. So if we remember, this happened in 1918, 1919 when World War One ended. And just 10 years after that, the Great Depression is going to start. So imagine that Germany has all this destruction. They lost lots of their land. They have to pay a huge amount of money for the war and reparations back to the countries that won. And now the Great Depression happens not just in the U.S., but all around the world. Germany's economy is going to be doing awful. It's terrible. They're going to be completely ruined. And this is going to give people the want of a leader who is strong, powerful, and is promising to bring Germany back to what it once was. And that leads people to Adolf Hitler, who is going to blame all of Germany's problems on people that are not ethnic Germans, not Aryans, specifically Jewish people, as most of us know. So let's get into what actually happens. So here's Hitler right here, and he is going to form the Nazi Party. He is a totalitarian dictator. He is going to end up having total control of Germany as Germany's citizens give him that power and allow him to have that. His party with the swastika is the Nazi Party. And like we said, part of his ability to gain so much power is going to be through blaming others, scapegoating others, like the Jews, homosexuals, blacks, so on. He is going to break the Treaty of Versailles, one of those punishments in it, which says they can't have a big, strong army. So he's going to start militarizing Germany again and enlarging the army, which should be setting alarm bells for everyone who is a part of World War One. And he also wants Germany's land back. He wants to expand that land that was lost during World War One. Another thing that the Treaty of Versailles took away from Hitler was made them lose some of their territory. So alarm bells should be ringing that Germany is getting aggressive again. And here, of course, is the swastika for the Nazi Party. So let's look at how World War One actually started. So Germany wants to get its land back. It wants to expand. So first place Germany's going to go under Hitler is to this area called the Rhineland, and they're going to quickly take it over. And Then they're going to go after Austria. They're going to take that over, which was part of Austria-Hungary, as you imagine. And they're going to go and take a piece of Czechoslovakia. So while this is all happening, Britain and France are using that first word we talked about, which was appeasement. They are appeasing Hitler. Think about what that meant again. If you remember, it means giving someone something they want to avoid conflict. You got to realize the Great Depression's going on, the economy's not doing well, the world has a lot of problems. Other countries like France, like Britain, don't want to get in a conflict with Germany. So they are appeasing him. They're saying, fine, take the Rhineland, take Austria-Hungary, take Czechoslovakia. We're warning you, you shouldn't be doing that. But we don't want to have conflict with you. We are appeasing you. We're having this policy of appeasement because we don't want to go to war. So they let Hitler take that to avoid conflict, but they warn Hitler after he takes the Rhineland, Austria, and Czechoslovakia that if you take anything else, we're going to have to declare war. And Hitler tries to call their bluff and is like, no, you're not. And if you do, Germany has a strong army again, and we're not afraid. So he goes after Poland, which is that's quite a ways away from Germany. It's close, but it's a lot bigger than these little pieces that Germany is trying to regain after World War I. So he invades Poland, and Britain and France weren't bluffing this time. They declare war on Germany, which starts World War II. So, taking a little break from that for a second, what Hitler is going to start to do during World War II is to go after minority populations. He's going after Jews, homosexuals, gypsies, blacks, people of the Slavic region, so on. And a lot of these people are going to be forced to work until they die. 11 million people are going to die, including the 6 million Jews that we've talked about. And the images of this event that we call the Holocaust is just brutal. You have the conditions that Jews and others would have to live in these concentration camps are awful. They're living literally on shelves right here. They're skin and bones, as you can see. Anyone who can no longer work, or if they have too many people, or if people are sick, they will literally line them up and shoot them and drop these, have them fall into these pits, these mass graves. Kids are not able to work, at least not the really little ones. You see pregnant women may have had a baby, and babies can't work. They would literally be thrown into these mass graves. Children would have to work as a part of Hitler's final solution. His final solution being to kill all the Jews who he scapegoats into being Germany's problem as why they're not successful. These children will starve to death or be thrown into these mass graves or be thrown into gas chambers where they'll seal the door behind them and release deadly gas as a more efficient way to not waste bullets and manpower. Another look at some of the brutal work that Jews and others would have to do during this Holocaust on these concentration camps. So it was very brutal. Most of us know about the Holocaust, and it's a very terrible event, and that's happening for a while before the Allies really know what's going on. So the question is, this is U.S. history, so does the U.S. get involved? We see that Hitler is invading. He's being aggressive. We see that other totalitarians, Tojo, Mussolini, are getting involved in Japan and Italy and also taking aggressive actions and having totalitarianism. But the U.S. is going to declare, as they did before they joined World War I, that they are neutral. They're not picking a side. They're isolationists. They're keeping to themselves, and they're not going to get involved. A lot of people in the U.S. are going to say, U.S., we need to join. We need to get involved. We can't let all these totalitarians, these people with total control like Hitler, like Mussolini, like Tojo, get involved. But ultimately, the U.S. is going through the Great Depression. A lot of people felt like World War I was a waste. from an economic and manpower standpoint, and that we didn't get anything out of it. So a lot of people, and not enough people, support going to war. So at the end of the day, instead of it being the Allies versus the Central Powers, it's going to be the Allies versus the Axis. And who are on both sides pretty quick after the war starts. We have Great Britain on the Allies, with France as they joined together to attack Germany after they failed in appeasement. The Soviet Union, Russia, will join the war on the Allies side. Germany will get involved. The Nazi Germany, Italy will join. Japan will join. And Germany's totalitarian is Hitler. Italy's is Mussolini. Japan's is Tojo. So these totalitarians are working together on the axis. Now, where is the U.S.? Oh, and also there was another totalitarian, Joseph Stalin, which will be on the Allied side after Hitler invades the Soviet Union. So he chooses to go with the Allies, even though he is a totalitarian as well. But the U.S. is staying out of it for the time being until one of these totalitarians takes an aggressive action towards him. We'll talk about that next. Thanks, guys.